Here we are. Just go through from the beginning. Remember, we did the introduction, and that was the Vedas, explaining the authority of the Vedas, of which the Isopanishads are part. And then we went on to the invocation, that the qualities of the absolute truth, so we can understand his nature, and there is a person, that God must have everything within his creation, and things which are beyond our understanding also, so he must have personality. Then we went to 1, 2, 3, which explains how everything should be used for the satisfaction of the proprietor. So if we do that, we make progress. If we don't, we regress. Then we went on to 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8. So this was 3 kinds of devotees. Kanishta, one who just sees himself as a devotee, worships a deity. Madhyam, who sees others devotees, and he can actually differentiate between different classes of living entities, and therefore he preaches. And finally, Uttama, which is, or Maha Bhagavat, which this section is talking about, what his vision is of the Lord. Then, and what his characteristics are also. Then we went into another section, which is these 3 together, 9, 10, 11. I was talking about, we have to, in order to understand anything, we have to have knowledge. So it was differentiating between knowledge and ignorance. And really, knowledge is actually described in the Bhagavad Gita, and it's also described in that section. All the different 20, I think there's 20 or 6 items of knowledge. So anything outside of that is actually ignorance. And it said that anything that some things look like knowledge, like modern education, but they're like anybody remember the analogy? Like a jewel on a serpent's head. It looks very nice, but it's very dangerous. And at the end of on 11, we said that we have to understand both knowledge and ignorance, so we can differentiate and use the ignorance in a positive way, use what is so-called ignorance, this material world, in a positive way to get liberation. And then the next 3 are worship of the absolute truth. So it went through the same dynamics. What is knowledge and different ignorance? What's the different? And how to utilize both knowledge and ignorance. Sorry, what is asat, sambhuti and asambhuti? Sambhuti is worship of the Lord, asambhuti is worship of something else. So how to know what to worship and what not to worship. And we can only understand that really through a devotee. And then when we know what to worship, we have to understand what is the spiritual world and what is the material world. Like that. And then we put the 2 together and we can use them in devotional service. Like the temporary world full of, different species of life. It mentions all this. But the spiritual world is full of variegated spiritual life. Men, demigods, these are all part of the material world. Then we went on to now we're going on to 15, 16, 17, and 18. Did we do 15? I don't think we did we?
Did we do that last week?
I can't remember. Let's have a look. Well, I'll put my bookmark in here just a minute. I suppose I went through this just an hour ago, and Let's have a look. Isopanisad. Yeah, we're on to 16. So in 15, we dealt with, the 3 levels of understanding the absolute truth. That's the all-pervading Brahman effulgence. It's similar to what we see as the sunshine analogy of the sun compared to the 3 levels of understanding the absolute truth. Then the next level is understanding that Paramatma is in the heart. That's like understanding the sun planet. And then Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, full of 6 opulences, is like understanding the deity of the sun planet, personal. And so, if we want to understand the Super Soul and Bhagavan, we have to clear away the dazzling effulgence, which is like the Brahmajyoti, this impersonal understanding only. And that's by the mercy of a devotee, we can see through that and then understand Paramatma and eventually Bhagavan. So that was explained last week. And then this week, we're talking about further prayers for the Lord to reveal himself. So this whole section is revelation of the Lord's form and then mercy at the time of death. That's the last 2, 17 and 18. Okay. So now we're here in this last section. So we'll just go down to 16. Yeah, so attaining Bhagavan realization and prayers of the devotee to attain Bhagavan realization. So does Jai Krishna want to read?
Want to read the verse, Maharaj? You're better than me.
Okay.
I don't know the tune.
This is it's a difficult one because it's in prose. All these Upanishads, some of these Upanishads are like that. But anyway, I'll try. Ushana Karse Yama Surya Prabhatya Ayur Rasmin Samoha Tejo Yate Rupam Kalyana Tamam Tate Pashyami Yosavaso Purusha Soham Asmi. Carry on.
O my Lord, O primeval philosopher, maintainer of the universe, O regulating principle, destination of the pure devotees, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. You are the eternal Supreme Personality of Godhead, like unto the sun, as am I. Unto the sun, as am I. Purport. The sun and its rays are one and the same, qualitatively. Similarly, the Lord and the living entities are one and the same in quantity. The sun is one, but the molecules of the sun's rays are innumerable. Sun's rays constitute part of the sun, and the sun and its rays conjointly constitute the complete sun. Within the sun itself resides the sun god, and similarly within the supreme spiritual planet, Loka Vrindavan, from which the Brahmajyoti effulgence is emanating, the Lord enjoys his eternal pastime, as verified in the Brahma Samhita. Chintamani Prakar Sadmashu Kalpa Vriksha Lakshavretu Vreshtu Surabir Pipal Ayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrama Sevyamanam Govindam Adipurasham Tam Aham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, primeval Lord, first progenitor, who is tending to the cows, fulfilling all desires in abodes filled with spiritual gems, and surrounded by millions of wish-fulfilling trees. He is always served with great reverence and affection. Hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or goddesses of fortune. Shall I go on?
Okay, you can stop there. We can go around again if necessary. Yeah, so this was in the first. This is the first verse. Well, it's not the first verse. It's the 29th verse, but it's a first verse which starts glorifying. Lord Brahma starts to glorify the Supreme Personality of God at the beginning of creation, when he, Lord Dakashaya Vishnu gives him the vision to see the spiritual world. And he gives him that vision because of his austerities. He's told him to perform tapasya, tapa. And by that tapa, he got the ability to serve the Lord in the way that he was asked. That was to create all life within the universe. And that was the first prayer in which he described the spiritual world. Okay, Dampu, can you read?
Okay. The Brahma Jyoti is also described in Samhita, where it is said that the Brahma Jyoti is the rays emanating from that supreme spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavan, just as the sun's rays emanate from the sun globe. Until one surpasses the glare of the Brahma Jyoti, he cannot receive information of the land of the Lord. Being blinded by the dazzling Brahma Jyoti, the impersonalist philosopher can neither realize the factual abode of the Lord nor his transcendental form. Limited by their poor fund of knowledge, such impersonalist thinkers cannot understand the all-blissful, transcendental form of Lord Krishna. In this prayer, therefore, Sri Isopanisad petitions the Lord to remove the effulgent rays of the Brahma Jyoti, so that the pure devotee can see his all-blissful, transcendental form. By realizing the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, one experiences the auspicious aspect of the Supreme, and by realizing the Paramatma, or all-pervading feature of the Supreme, one experiences an even more auspicious enlightenment. By meeting the personality of Godhead himself face to face, the devotee experiences the most auspicious feature of the Supreme. Since he is addressed as the primeval philosopher and maintainer and well-wisher of the universe, the supreme truth cannot be considered impersonal. This is the verdict of Sri Isopanisad. The word Pushan, maintainer, is especially significant, for although the Lord maintains all beings, he specifically maintains his devotees. After surpassing the impersonal Brahma Jyoti and seeing the personal aspect of the Lord and his most auspicious eternal form, the devotee realizes the absolute truth in full.
Okay. No, just a minute. Just let me go to another section. Shall I put the share on? There's not much written on this share, only what there we are. Okay, and just a minute. Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanna Koti, Kotesha Sesha Visadati Vibhati Vinam. Tad Brahma Nishkalamanantama Sesha Bhutam Govindamadi Visham Tamaham Bhajami. So this is saying that, Krishna is simultaneously the source of the Brahman effulgence, but at the same time, he's actually different from it. And, by performing devotional service, if we're actually fully engaged all the time, then we're actually situated on the Brahman platform. And we can understand Krishna's eternality, we can understand his position. And It says in the Bhagavad Gita, actually. I haven't got one now today. Has anybody got a Bhagavad Gita handy? No? Okay, don't matter. It's 14:17. Oh, you've got one. Check up chapter 14, text 27, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness, and which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal.
So that's Krishna's position. So this section is relating Bhagavan in relation to the material world, or at least in relation to the Brahma Jyoti, so that we can see the relationship. That's because we're talking about Hiranmayana, the golden effulgence which surrounds, which covering the Lord's face. That's the Brahma Jyoti. So we're asking to remove that. So it's explained the relationship between what we see after it's removed and what we may be seeing at the time of Brahma Jyoti realization that Krishna is everywhere. Okay, so Mataji Sita Thakurani, would you like to read?
I'll try. Yeah. In his Bhagavat Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami states, the complete conception of the absolute truth is realized in the personality of Godhead because he is almighty and possesses full transcendental potencies. The full potency of the absolute truth is not realized in the Brahma Jyoti. Therefore, Brahman realization is only partial realization of the personality of Godhead. O learned sages, the first syllables of the word Bhagavan, Bha, has two meanings. The first is one who fully maintains, and the second is guardian. The second syllable, Ga, means guide, leader, or creator. The syllable Van indicates that every being lives in him and that he also lives in every being. In other words, the transcendental sound Bhagavan represents infinite knowledge, potency, energy, opulence, strength, and influence, all without a tinge of material inebriety.
Okay, thank you. So that's one understanding of Bhagavan. Bhagavan also means opulence, and Van means owner, so we can understand it in that way also. So we can understand if he's the owner of everything, all opulences. You know, he's actually the supply. He's actually maintaining, as it says in this section. So it's just breaking it down a little bit, and he's guiding everybody as leader, as it says. It's guide, and like. So it's just it's the same thing, but presented in a more elaborate way. That's all. Okay. Let's have a look. Andy Pooh, sorry, would you like to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. The Lord fully maintains his unalloyed devotees and he guides them progressively on the path toward devotional perfection.
I don't mind everybody going in different order, but if did Dandy want to read?
Sorry, Maharaj, I'm in travel and I have not brought I've not brought that literature with me, so
okay.
I can't read this time, I'm afraid.
Okay, so who's reading now? Who's reading?
I am reading Prabhuji, Sandeep.
Okay. So yeah, go on then.
Should I continue?
Yeah.
Okay. The Lord fully maintains his unalloyed devotees and he guides them progressively on the path toward devotional perfection. As the leader of his devotees, he ultimately awards the desired result of devotional service by giving himself to them. The devotees of Lord see the Lord eye to eye by his causeless mercy. Thus the Lord help his devotees reach the supermost spiritual planet, Golka Vrindavana. Being the creator, he can bestow all necessary qualification upon his devotees so that they can ultimately reach him. The Lord is the cause of all causes. In other words, since there is nothing that caused him, he is the original cause. Consequently, he enjoys his own self by manifesting his own internal potency. The external potency is not exactly manifested by him, for he expands himself as the Purushas, and it is in these forms that he maintains the features of material manifestation. By such expansions, he creates, maintains, and annihilates the cosmic manifestation.
Okay, thank you. Oh. Suman, Prabhu, do you like to read?
Yes, Maharaj. The living entities are also differentiated expansions of the Lord's self, and because some of them desire to be lords and imitate the Supreme Lord, he allows them to enter into the cosmic creations with the options to fully utilize their potency to lord it over nature. Because of the potency of his parts and parcels, the living entities, the entire phenomenal world is treated into actions and reactions. Thus, the living entities are given full facilities to lord it over material nature. But the ultimate controller is the Lord himself in his planetary features as Paramatma, the super soul, who is one of the Purushas.
Yes,
Shall I
read
continue?
the paragraph, it's short one.
Okay. Thus, there is a gulf of difference between the living entity Atma and the controlling Lord Paramatma, the soul and the super soul. Paramatma is the controller and the Atma is the controlled. Therefore, they are in different categories. Because of the Paramatma fully cooperates with the Atma, he is known as the constant companion of the living being. Shall I
Okay,
continue?
no, it's okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
I think that's it. It's self-explanatory. Paramatma is not a single person. It's not like many Paramatmas. You know, we just see a diagram just of the drawing of the Paramatma in the heart of everybody. But it's one person. It's the expansion of God. It's Garbhodakashaya Vishnu within everybody's heart. Oh, sorry, Shuradakashaya Vishnu. And that's what's maintaining all life force, all living entities and all atoms. So I think the Christians say Holy Ghost, don't they? But I don't know if it's a direct equivalent, that's all. But it sounds good anyway. Okay. Barbara Mataji, would you like to read? If you've got the verse, that is.
The all-pervading feature of the Lord, which exists in all circumstances of waking and sleeping, as well as in potential states, and from which Jiva Sakti, living force, is generated as both conditioned and liberated souls, is known as Brahman. Since the Lord is the origin of both Paramatma and Brahman, he is the origin of all living entities and all else that exists. One who knows this engages himself at once in the devotional service of the Lord. Such is pure and fully cognate devotee of the Lord is fully attached to him in heart and soul, and whenever such a devotee assembles with these similar devotees, they have no engagement but the glorification of the Lord's transcendental activity. Those who are not as perfect as the pure devotees, namely those who have realized only the Brahman or Paramatma feature of the Lord, cannot appreciate the activity of the perfect devotees. The Lord always helps the pure devotees by imparting necessary knowledge within their hearts, and thus out of his special favour he dissipates all the darkness of ignorance. The speculative philosophers and yogis cannot imagine this because they are more or less dependent on their own strength. As stated in the Katha Upanishad 1-23, the Lord can be known only by those whom he favours, and not by anybody else. Such special favours are bestowed upon his pure devotees only. Sri Upanishad thus points to the favour of the Lord, which is beyond the purview of the Brahma Yogi.
Yeah, so it's by mercy we can understand. Just like in Bhagavad Gita at the beginning, he mentions Sanjaya, how, he's actually relating to Dhritarashtra what's happening on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And Prabhupada writes in the purport that it's by the mercy of Vyas that he could see the battlefield even though he wasn't there. So, by the mercy of authorities, senior authorities, if they're actually qualified, and by the mercy of Krishna, we get the vision we get the spiritual vision. And also the understanding we were talking about earlier on, knowledge and worship we were talking about. So it's all dependent on, as Nectar of Instruction explains in the preface, our advancement in controlling the senses and going forward is dependent on our attitude. If we really want to do it, then Krishna will give us full facility. So that's what we really want to be. We want to be really convinced about what we want to do in life. And then Krishna will reciprocate with that. Just like, anyway, enough said. If we really want to do something, then Krishna will actually... So that's why we're reading Isopanishads. We just keep reading and hearing. And like Prabhupada, we may not fully understand what the spiritual master's talking about in his books or personally, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But, he noticed that he didn't actually, he always wanted to hear what he was saying. So he got the ability to understand the philosophy and what the spiritual master wanted, like that. So attitude we've got to try and cultivate. So we're on to 17 now. I'll just recite the. So these two last ones they talk about, at the time of death, how we obtain the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vayu anilam amritam atedan bashvantam shariram amkrato smara krito smaro krito smara kritam smaram. So, who's not read yet? Jack, would you like to read?
Certainly, Maharaj. Let this temporary body be burnt to ashes, and let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices, and because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. Purport. The temporary material body is certainly a foreign dress. The Bhagavad Gita 2.20 clearly states that after the destruction of the material body, the living entity is not annihilated, nor does he lose his identity. The identity of the living entity is never impersonal or formless. On the contrary, it is the material dress that is formless, and that takes place that takes a shape according to the form of the indestructible person. No living entity is originally formless, as is wrongly thought by those with poor fund of knowledge. This mantra verifies the fact that the living entity exists after the annihilation of the material body. In the material world, the material nature displays wonderful workmanship by creating varieties of bodies for the living beings according to their propensities for sense gratification. The living entity who wants to taste stool is given a material body that is quite suitable for eating stool, that of a hog. Similarly, one who wants to eat flesh and blood of other animals may be given a tiger's body equipped with suitable teeth and claws. But the human being is not meant for eating flesh, nor does he have any desire to taste stool, even in the most aboriginal state. Human teeth are also made that they can chew and cut fruit and vegetables, although there are two canine teeth, so that primitive humans can eat flesh if they so desire.
Yeah, so Prabhupada always, quite often comes back to that point about what we eat. You know, it's so important that, you know, spiritual life starts with the tongue. By, you know, hearing and chanting about Krishna, and also by tasting remnants of prasad. And that's how, you know, it says, because of the tongue, people do the most abominable things, and they make their future very, very dark. So he highlights that point quite often. Okay, Suman, do you want to read?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Is it from, but in any case, from here, this paragraph?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in any case, the material bodies of all animals and men are forgotten to the living entity. They changes according to the living entity's desire for some sense gratifications. In the cycle of evolutions, the living entity changes bodies one after another. When the world was full of water, the living entity took an aquatic form. Then, when he passed to vegetable life, from vegetable life to worm life, from worm life to bird life, from bird life to animal life, and from animal life to the human form. The highest developed form in this human form when it is possessed of a full sense of spiritual knowledge. The highest development of one's spiritual senses is described in this mantra. One should give up the material body, which will be turned to ashes, and allow the air of life to merge into the eternal reservoir of air. The living beings activates are performed with activities. The living beings' activities are performed within the body through the movements of different kinds of air, known in summary as pranavayu. The yogis generally study how to control the airs of the body. The soul is supposed to raise from one circle to air to another unit. It raises to the Brahmarandra, the highest circle. From that point, the perfect yogi can transfer himself to any planet he likes. The process is to give up one material body and then enter into another. But the highest perfections of such changes occurs only when the living entity is able to give up the material body altogether. As suggested in this mantra, and enter into the spiritual atmosphere where can develop a completely different type of body, a spiritual body which never has to meet death or change.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Koshi Mataji, would you like to read? I'll read while she's ready. Here in the material world, material nature forces the living entity to change his body due to his different desires for sense gratification. These desires are represented in the various species of life, from the germs to the most perfect material bodies, those of Brahma and the demigods. All these living entities have bodies composed of matter in different shapes. The intelligent man sees oneness not in the variety of the bodies, but in the spiritual identity. The spiritual sport, which is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is the same whether he is in the body of a hog, in the body of a demigod. The living entity takes on different bodies according to his pious and vicious activities. The human body is highly developed and has full consciousness. According to the Bhagavad Gita 7:19, the most perfect man surrenders unto the Lord after many lifetimes of culturing knowledge. The culture of knowledge reaches perfection only when the knower comes to the point of surrendering unto the Supreme Lord, Vasudeva. Otherwise, even after attaining knowledge of one's spiritual identity, if one does not come to the point of knowing that the living entities are eternal parts and parcels of the whole and can never become the whole, one has to fall down again into the material atmosphere. Indeed, one must fall down even if he has become one with the Brahmajyoti. Jai Krishna Prabhu, would you like to read?
Okay, as we have learned from previous mantras, the Brahmajyoti emanating from the transcendental body of the Lord is full of spiritual sparks that are individual entities with a full sense of existence. Sometimes these living entities want to enjoy their senses, and therefore they are placed in the material world to become false lords under the dictation of the senses. The desire for lordship is the material disease of the living being. For under the spell, sense enjoyment transmigrates through the various bodies manifested in the material world. Becoming one with the Brahmajyoti does not represent pure knowledge. Only by surrendering unto the Lord completely and developing one's sense of spiritual service, one reach the highest perfection stage. In this mantra, living entity prays to enter the spiritual kingdom of God through relinquishing his material body, material life. The devotee prays to the Lord to remember his activities and the sacrifices he has performed before his material body is turned into ashes. He makes his prayer at the time of death, full consciousness of his past deeds and of the ultimate goal. One who is completely under the rule of material nature remembers the heinous activities he performed during the existence of his material body. Consequently, he gets another material body after death. Bhagavad Gita 8.6 confirms this truth.
Okay.
Yam yam vapi. Shall I read it?
Yeah, you can read the verse.
Yam yam vapi smaran babam charatyante kulavaram tam tam evaiti kanteya sadatad bhava bhavitaha.
Okay.
Whatever being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. Thus the mind carries the living entity's propensities into the next life.
All right. Well, the whole point, is the conclusion of all the Shastras is to always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. So this is actually saying that if we're absorbed in devotional service, we can't help but remember Krishna and his service, which are non-different. And so in that surrendered mode, we can actually get Krishna's mercy when we leave this world. So in the next verse, it says, please remember all that I have done for you. Yeah. We'll read that in text 18. Don Pro, will you want to read?
Unlike the simple animals who have no developed mind, the human being can remember the activities of his past in life like dreams at night. Therefore, his mind remains surcharged with material desires, and consequently, he cannot enter into the spiritual kingdom with a spiritual body. However, the devotees develop a sense of love for God by practicing devotional service to the Lord. Even if a devotee does not remember his godly service at the time of death, the Lord does not forget him. This prayer is given to remind the Lord of the devotee's sacrifices, but even if there is no such reminder, the Lord does not forget the devotional service of his pure devotee. The Lord clearly describes his intimate relationship with his devotees in Bhagavad Gita. Even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. O son of Prita, those who take shelter in me, though they be of a lower birth, women, Vaishyas, as well as Sudras, can approach the supreme destination. How much greater then are the Brahmanas, the righteous, the devotees and saintly kings, who in this temporary miserable world engage in loving service unto me. Engage your mind in thinking of me always, offer obeisances and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me.
Okay, thank you. Let's see to Tatarani Masaji. Anybody know which verse that is? What you've just said. Bhagavad Gita, 1866.
1866.
Okay, that's a conclusion of the Gita. Please, Takarani Mataji.
Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains these verses in this way. One should regard a devotee of Krishna to be on the right path of the saints, even though such a devotee may seem to be sudurachara, a person of loose character. One should try to understand the real purport of the word sudurachara. A conditioned soul has to act for double functions, namely for the maintenance of the body and again for self-realization. Social status, mental development, cleanliness, austerity, nourishment, and the struggle for existence are all for the maintenance of the body. The self-realization part of one's activities is executed in one's occupation as a devotee of the Lord, and one performs actions in that connection also. One must perform these two different functions along parallel lines because a conditioned soul cannot give up the maintenance of the body. The proportion of activities for maintenance of the body decreases, however, in proportion to the increase in devotional service. As long as the proportional devotional service does not come to the right point, there is a chance for an occasional exhibition of worldliness, but it should be noted that such worldliness cannot continue for long because by the grace of the Lord, such imperfections will come to an end very shortly. Therefore, the path of devotional service is the only right path. If one is on the right path, even an occasional occurrence of worldliness does not hamper one in the advancement of self-realization.
Yeah. So yeah, these two paths, we have to be solid in our spiritual practice, then we overcome any material attachments, that's the point. And if we're not solid in that sadhana or that spiritual practice, and we've still got some worldliness, then they will actually pull us away eventually. So, Prabhupada says that if we come to the point of, getting the higher taste, and then automatically we make the right choices. We don't make the wrong choices. But until we get that higher taste, we have to be very, very focused or we have to make the effort to be very, very focused. After a time, it becomes effortless because we're attracted. That's a higher That's called raga bhakti. Raga means attachment. Okay, where did we finish? Advancement of self-realization. Okay, so we'll go to Suman Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. The facilities of devotional service are detained the impersonalist because they are attached to the Brahma Yotir features of the Lord. As suggested in the previous mantra, they cannot penetrate the Brahma Yoti because they also do not believe in the personality of Godhead. Their business is mostly word jugglery and mental speculations. Consequently, the impersonalists pursue a fruitless labor as confirmed in the 12th chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, 12.5.
There's their actual activities are very, very troublesome in the beginning and at the end. While they're actually practicing devotional service, or while they're practicing spiritual life, are difficult, and at the end, they've got no attachment to anything, so they can't maintain it. Okay, fine.
All the facilities suggested in the mantra can be easily obtained by constant contact with the personal features of the Absolute Truth. Devotional service to the Lord consists essentially of 9 transcendental activities. 1. Hearing about the Lord. 2. Glorifying the Lord. 3. Remembering the Lord. 4. Serving the lotus feet of the Lord. 5. Worshipping the Lord. 7. 6. Offering prayers to the Lord. 7. Serving the Lord. 8. Enjoying friendly associations with the Lord. And 9. Surrendering everything unto the Lord. Thus, 9 principles of devotional service, taken all together or one by one, help a devotee remain constantly in touch with God. In this way, at the end of life, it is easy for the devotee to remember the Lord. By adopting only one of those 9 principles, the following renowned devotees of the Lord were able to achieve the highest perfections. 1. By hearing of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit, the hero of Srimad Bhagavatam, attained the desired result. 2. Just by glorifying the Lord, Shukadev Goswami, the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, attained his perfections. 3. By praying to the Lord, Akura attained in the desired result. By remembering the Lord, Prahlad Maharaj attained the desired result. 5. By worshipping the Lord, Prithu Maharaj attained perfections. By serving 6. By serving the lotus feet of the Lord, the goddess of fortune Lakshmi attained the perfection. 7. By rendering personal service to the Lord, Hanuman attained the desired result. 8. Through his friendship with the Lord, Arjuna attained the desired result. And 9. Surrendering everything he had to the Lord, Maharaj Bali attained the desired result.
Okay.
I've got a question, Maharaj.
Yeah.
What's the difference between where is it? Serving the lotus feet of the Lord and serving the Lord?
Same.
Well, it says the two. It says number 4, serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Number 7, serving the Lord. It's got them down as 2 separate things.
Number 4 and number 7.
Yeah, number 4, serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Number 7, serving the Lord. Got them down separately.
Well, number 4 in my book said, remembering the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj attained the desired result. So, yeah, if you remember Prahlad Maharaj, you were only 5 years old.
No, I'm talking up above that. You know, when it first lists all the 9 processes of devotional service, hearing, glorifying, remembering the Lord, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, worshipping the Lord, offering prayers to the Lord, serving the Lord, enjoying friendly association with the Lord, and rendering everything. If you look at number 4, number 7.
Let's have a look. Well, in 3, by praying to the Lord, by remembering the Lord. Just have a look. 3. Yeah, I mean, it's general. It's got 3 down as remembering the Lord, and
No, I'm talking further up, Maharaj. Where
I'm talking about that. In 3, it says remembering the Lord, and then in 3, when it's actually itemized in more detail, it says praying to the Lord.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not so important, you know. They're all, like, say, overlapping anyway. It's all based around, you know, service, and you know, service means remembering the Lord. Otherwise, it's an inferior service, an unconscious service. So in that respect, you know, serving the lotus feet of the Lord there's no difference. That's my understanding anyway, you know. We in the mood of service to somebody's lotus feet, it's like in a worshipful frame of mind as well. And usually we serve through the devotees, you know. I don't know whether anybody else wants to add anything, but that's I've never seen any difference. I've read that many times, you know, and I always just take it as service. I've never seen anything to say there's any differentiation. And let's just have a look. It says 4, serving the lotus feet of the Lord. What does it say? It says remembering the Lord when it's itemized later on.
I was thinking maybe it was the difference between, because it talks about difference between personal service and like Hanuman, rendering personal service to the Lord like Hanuman, and something else. I don't know.
No, all these devotees as mentioned, they're all personalists. An impersonalist doesn't understand the Lord, not what to speak of rendering service. And I just think that it may be not written so well because Prahlad Maharaj, he was constantly remembering Krishna, although he was actually in great danger. You know, the most powerful being in the universe, besides Lord Brahma, was Hiranyakashipu, and he was his father, and they were trying to kill him. So just by virtue that he was actually remembering him, he felt secure. That's a gist of that pastime. So I don't know why it mentions, you know, serving. It might be, I don't know. Okay. Go on. Shall we go on? Who's to read now? Maybe Barbara can read.
Oh, okay. Where are we now? Actually, the explanation of this mantra and of practically all the mantras of the Vedic hymns is summarized in the Vedanta Sutra and properly explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the mature truth of Vedic tree of wisdom. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the particular mantra is explained in the questions and answers between Maharaja Parasitra and Sukadevi Goswami. At the very beginning of their meeting, hearing and chanting of the science of God is the basic principle of devotional life. The complete Bhagavatam was heard by Maharaj Parasita, I hope I'm saying that right, and chanted by Sukadevi Goswami. Maharaj Parasita inquired from Sukadevi because Sukadevi was a great spiritual master than any great yogi or transcendentalist of his time. Maharaj Parasita's main question was, what is the duty of every man specifically at the time of death? Sukadevi Goswami answered, over to you now. Maharaj, got the words out. Maharaj.
Okay.
The Sanskrit, please.
Tasmat Bharatasarvat Ma Bhagavanishvaro Harihi Smartabhya Kirtitabhyas Cha Smartabhyas Chitikabhyayam. Carry on.
Everyone who desires to be free from all anxiety should always hear about, glorify, and remember the personality of Godhead, who is the supreme director of everything, in the extinguisher of all difficulties, and the super soul of all living entities. Bhagavatam 2:15.
Okay.
So-called human societies generally engaged at night in sleeping and having sex, and during the daytime in earning as much money as possible, or else in shopping for family maintenance. People have very little time to talk about the personality of Godhead or to inquire about him. They have dismissed God's existence in so many ways, only by declaring him to be impersonal, that is, without sense perception. But in the Vedic literature, whether the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, or Srimad, oh God, I don't know what's wrong with me, Bhagavatam, it is declared that the Lord is the sentient being and it's supreme over all living entities. His glorious activities are identical with himself. One should therefore not indulge in hearing and speaking of the rubbish activities of worldly politicians and so-called big men in society, but should mold his life in such a way that he can engage in bodily activities without wasting a second. Isopanisad directs us towards such godly activities.
You might as well finish it off, Matthew. There's only a little paragraph. Carry on to the end.
Unless one is accustomed to devotional practice, what will he remember at the time of death when the body is dislocated? And how can he pray to the Almighty Lord to remember his sacrifices? Sacrifice means denying the interest of the senses. One has to learn this art by employing the senses in the service of the Lord during one's lifetime. One can utilize the result of such practice as one can utilize the result of such practice at the time of death.
Okay. So devotional services, we call it Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, don't they? The beginning of devotional service practice. By practice, we can actually become perfect. You said that in this material, won't they? Practice, practice, practice. So, what they say, fake it till you make it. I don't think we're not faking it, we're actually doing the real thing, but maybe our minds are not absorbed. Maybe, we've got lots of other things which are also in the pipeline. So in that way, we can we're not fully focused. And I think we've got to. It's 8 o'clock now, so we'll stop. And there's just one mantra left. So I don't think it's. We'll just do it next week, and then we can recap on the whole Isopanishads and have feedback like that. I'm sorry everybody didn't get to read again, but anything else?
Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam. I have one question.
Okay.
Is it okay to read Srimad Bhagavatam and CC simultaneously?
I mean, it's always okay to read, these literatures. And Prabhupada does say we can read them anywhere and there'll be some benefit. he says, but if we want to seriously read them, we should go through them in order. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with reading them all the way through and then going back and starting and really studying them. But you won't get the full benefit of them if you do that, that's all. You know, people read Chaitanya Charitamrita because they're nice stories. But I say it's like a postgraduate study of all the philosophy. And there's especially in the Adi Leela, the first 7 chapters, it's unbelievably deep. So yeah, what I'd advise is if you're reading Bhagavatam, just read that with real focus. But if you want to read Chaitanya Charitamrita, you know, you can do, but until you've really studied the others, you'll not get the full benefit, that's all. So, you know, that's why Prabhupada wanted these examinations, Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta, and Bhakti Sarvabhauma. And they wanted, you know, first of all, we get Bhakti Shastri. If we actually get Bhakti Shastri and do it properly, we'll be really fixed up in our devotional service. And that's like Bhagavad Gita, Isopanishads, Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, and all the other books, smaller books. So that's the full philosophy. That's quite a large section of the whole philosophy. And then the Bhagavatam is, you know, first 6 chapters of Bhagavatam are Bhakti Vaibhava, then the full Bhagavatam is Bhakti Vedanta, and then the Chaitanya and Charitamrita and everything else is the Bhakti Sarvabhauma. So we're just going through now without actually going into so much depth. We're just reading through. But it helps us that when we do come to the stage of doing these examinations, if we want to, you know, Prabhupada advises, it'll make it easier. We're getting the basic understanding of how it's laid out, and we're hearing the philosophy again. But we can go much deeper.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for the clarification.
What's that? Oh,
Thank you so much for the clarifications.
okay, I thought you were asking another question. Okay. So is that okay with everybody? We'll finish it off next week.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you anyway.
thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah.
The Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.